Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us on another wonderful Saturday on the That Proud Black Woman Show. How have you been doing? How was your week? I hope you had a great one. My week was splendid. Uh, this Saturday, I have nothing planned. I know every week I come up here and I tell you how I have this wonderful barbecue or I have visitors coming over. Well, today is a chill day. I'm going to be relaxing and enjoying. So, whatever you're going to be doing, you know how we do on this show. Just go straight and mark attendance in the comment section. Where are you watching us from? Let me know where you're watching us from. What time is it over there? If it's in Canada, we have several. Which time zone you're watching us from. Also, today I promised that I was going to bring you another fantastic guest, which of course I always deliver on my promises. But I know you're eager to know who am I bringing. For those of you following me on social media, I'm sure by now you already know who is coming on board. But stay tuned and don't touch that dial. Hello. So I have the amazing, the wonderful Deborah Ojo of DeboraHomes here with us today. Just give me a virtual round of applause for our wonderful guest today. How are you doing today, Deborah?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. So, apart from the fact that you're beautiful and you're a successful person, you have brains, is there any, because I like to ask my guests, is there something that people don't know about you, something fun that people don't know apart from you being beautiful or you being, a boss in your field? What else that don't we know?
Let me see. Um, some people know this, but some people also don't know this. They assume I'm an extrovert, like I'm just like all flying and talking and all of that. In actual sense, I'm not. There are a few
Really?
things that I'm passionate about, and which real estate, family, all of those things are part of it. But otherwise, if you're talking about everything else, you just see me like withdrawing, and people are like, "Yeah, once we start talking about business, like your face just lit up, you talk." But when we're talking about other things that you're not interested in, you just go back into your shell. So yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Oh, wow. Because truly, before I reach out to you, I always see you posting videos, doing lives and all of that, and you look bubbly and everything. So if I was to be asked that, tell me one thing about Deborah Ojo, I would have said, yes, she's an extrovert. She like she's
No.
not shy on camera or anything. She's an extrovert. She's fun. So that's interesting to know. That's interesting to know. So now that we know that about you, now we're going to go a little bit into your background. Like, what's your background like, both family and as well the business? But I would like you to start first with the family.
Okay. So I am a wife. I am a mother. So I do have 4 kids of my own, of our
Oh,
own, with my husband.
wow.
And my parents brought me to Canada, as a kid, and that helped me to see a lot of things, develop exactly what I wanted to become. So that gave me time to be able to think on some of the things, some of my goals, and how I'm going to achieve it. So that goal, pretty much, one day I was sitting in my living room. In our living room, we were a family of 7. So I used to tease my parents, and I'm like, you guys, you're a family of 7, like everywhere. My dad will not hear the end of this. I'm always like, you're a family of 7. Because, coming to Canada, when we were doing our blood work, I think we did it in Lagos, and the person that was doing this would say family of 7 instead of saying Ojo family or something. It was so hard to the lady that a whole, one person decided to have 5 kids. So I always seasoned family of 7, family of 7. So we gave ourselves that nickname. And then eventually, I became a family of 6. So my dad would not let me hear out the end. It's like family of 6, family of 6. But then it was in our living room. Then we had a 2-bedroom apartment. It was very hard to get that spot, as you know, for new immigrants. Securing your residence is always as far as back as then. We had to pay 6 months down.
Wow.
So but I thought to myself, this all this I had to share my room, of course, with my other siblings. Our boy, my brother, was sleeping in the living room, and 4 girls will sleep in that one bedroom, and then my parents will sleep in their own bedroom. So I thought to
Mm-hmm.
myself, first of all, I was imagining how much this person was making as per, I think rent then was like $800 or 750, something like around there for the two-bedroom. So I was thinking about that, and I was thinking of how much money they were making. And I promised myself that, well, this can be a business that I'm gonna do for sure. And I am going to make sure that immigrants and people that will have minority communities and people that don't have as much access is going to try. I'm going to try to make sure that they are my priority and I'm going to give them access. So yeah, that is a short story about me and my family, and I'm a Christian as well. I'm a pro-Christian. I tell people when you see me praying, like I'm ghetto in prayer. I'm very Pentecostal, so when I'm praying, we are really digging it. So yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I like the way you kind of married your background coming to Canada as well as the career you chose, because you wanted the way you came to Canada and how you had to share your small room and had to pay for 6 months. And you're like, you know what? I'm not going to allow this to happen again on my watch to immigrants, especially people that, especially having experienced that. That's awesome. I remember when I came to Canada as well. I had come from Ireland. I used to live in Dublin, Ireland, and I came to
Okay.
Canada, and it was difficult as well. And I came to Canada, I had my first child, and I remember with that baby, I would have him strapped on my chest looking for houses.
Oh
And when I
wow.
get there, they will be like, oh, yeah, 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 it's fine. I'll be so happy that I got the house. But before I get back home, I was then living with my auntie in Oakville. Before I get back home, I'll get an email. Sorry, we already found somebody else that we're going to.
Ah,
And by the time we finally got a place, when myself and my husband got a place, they had to ask us to pay for 6 months, which we didn't have at the time. So what we had done was pay for 4 months, but then our realtor at the time, this is someone we don't know from anywhere, it's a white guy. We didn't know him from anywhere, but he had seen what we had gone through. He had to apply as a co-signer
oh, oh
for us to
wow.
be able to get it with the 4 months rent. And
Oh
I'll
wow.
be forever grateful to that guy because he didn't know us, but he just couldn't, he just has had enough with seeing us going through
Mm,
that every single day. And that was how
yeah.
we were able to get the apartment building that we were living then. 4 months rent. It was crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, that makes sense. If I had met someone like you then, you'd have
Yeah.
given us how we can go or how we can go about this without going through all of that stress. So now, how you moved to Canada, you went through all of that. How was the process of becoming a realtor itself? How did that go for you?
Okay, so continue the story. So we I did that, and I was very passionate about it. I would ask everybody, how do I do this? Ask people that have been here before me. Usually my friends are usually older than me, so I will ask my friends and Canadians and all of that. How do you get into this business? And nobody seemed to know. So eventually, I fast forward, I got married, we bought our first property, and then I was obsessed with the fact that I see neighbors making so much money on their property within few months. And when my husband comes home, I was also always sharing this information with him. And you know how men sometimes you're telling them, "Oh yeah, this is how my day." Oh yeah, yeah, but this person made $200,000, and it's like, okay, sure, okay. And then it goes back to maybe he wants to sleep or he's talking about something else. And I'm just like, so one day he finally said, okay, if you like real estate so much, why don't you go into it? Right. And that
Mhm.
was how that vision was birthed again. And I decided to go into real estate. So I was helping my parents as well, giving people information, encouraging all of my friends, you need to buy property, you need to buy your first property, look at what I've made. So when I started complaining about it so much, talking about it too much to my husband, he was fed up. He said, "Go into it." I then went into real estate and started showing people about, this is how to buy property, this is how to make money. So people that know Deborah Homes know that we are more affiliated to how to position yourself buying real estate as an investment property so you can make money. Because that was my own mentality of coming into real estate. It's beyond just a mere transaction, buying a house, living there, sharing memories. Yes, that's good. Alongside, we can also maximize the potential of making money and possibly buying more property.
Yeah, that's, I think, am I frozen or is Deborah frozen?
Oh, Am I frozen?
Oh, it froze for a little while. All
Okay,
right.
okay.
So for those of you watching us, yeah, are we talking about? So first of all, let me reintroduce my guest. Her name is Deborah Ojo, and she is the CEO of Deborah Homes. And she's been talking to us about how she got into real estate, how you can actually make it in real estate, how what was her passion into going before she chose to, you know what, I'm going into real estate and I'm going to teach people how to make it in this field. So if you're watching us right now, you know what to do. For those of you that are OG, please go in the comment section. Tell us where you're watching us from. If it is in Canada, what time is it over there? What city is it? If it is outside of Canada, let us know as well in the comment section, because that's how we'll mark attendance on this show. So just a little fun fact. When I came on this show and I saw Deborah, and she was like, "Oh, I didn't get the memo for the yellow. By the way, we didn't plan this. It just so happened. So it means that this show is gonna be a banger. For those of you that are watching, just grab your pen and paper, and you'll see one or two things that you can actually learn as it comes to real estate. So now, Deborah, you were talking about how you finally got into real estate from you complaining about, you know what, see how much these people have learned. And your husband said, okay, no problem. If you like it so much, go into it. And that birthed real estate. Now, the process itself of becoming a realtor, how challenging was it? And can you give us like a brief rundown of how that looks like, getting your license as a real estate agent?
Um, Getting to where I am has been challenging and self-taught in a lot of ways. But once I decided I was going to be a realtor, first of all, the information wasn't that much. It wasn't out there a lot. So you had to be, I guess we could have Googled it and all of that, but the information, like I was asking realtors that I knew. And a lot of them would be like, they would give you vague information that you can't really act on. Like, go to Alba College, go under Alba College, you can find this and that. And they were giving vague information. So eventually, I got a man, and it was an Indian man. He was explaining to me. I'm like, no, explain it to me one by one, step by step. So he told me, okay, go to this website. I said, wait, let me get to that website. Okay, what else should I click? So I eventually took my exam. Enough for me, my mother-in-law was here. My last daughter was still very young, or it was my second to last. Was still very young at the time. So my mother-in-law was there. She was helping me. I was still doing my teaching job because I was a teacher. So I would stay extra hours. I tried to study a little bit to do my exam. So every 3 weeks. So I knew that my mother-in-law was going to stay with me for only a short period of time, and I needed to maximize that time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have the time. So, I would study after my work. Go to the library. My mother-in-law takes care of the kids, and I did my exam. So you have to take, so that time, you only have to take 4 or 5 courses. So I took it every 3 weeks. I'll take my exam every 3 weeks, read the materials, go write the exam, and then take the next one. And as soon as I finish doing that, then you have to go through all your process, get license, go to security check and all of that, background check, and then get your license under a brokerage. So the guy that I had asked to help me with the website and all the steps that I needed to take, I was asking him and say, hey, what's up? Which brokerage are you? At this time, this guy was a successful realtor. And for me, like my parents always say something, never seek for very good where excellence is possible. Never seek for very good where excellence is possible. So when I saw this guy, he was a realtor. Like every Nigerian is motivated. In my own head, I don't know about, because things are changing very quickly, right? When I was living in Nigeria before, it's not the same now. But Nigerians are usually highly motivated. So when I saw this guy, he was successful. He was this. I'm like, yeah, this person is. I want to join your own brokerage. So a lot of places, the way brokerage business model works, some of them are just getting agents. They get the agents. They're making money on the agents per head. So maybe the agents are paying $100. So they want more agents so they can make money. That's how some brokerages make money. Some other brokerage, they're gonna say, okay, we'll charge you per transaction. We'll charge X amount of your commission per transaction. Usually they charge a little bit more, but the monthly desk fee and all of that is not there. So when I was comparing both, I saw that this man with Remax brand was doing excellently well. It was a little bit more expensive, but the agents in that brokerage and the commission level they were making is what I wanted to do. That's what I aspired to do. So I decided to join them. And at the time, like I said, the guy is not so patient, but I was at least grateful that I slowed him down to explain what I needed, and then I joined his brokerage, which was a successful brokerage, and that was my first brokerage. And I stayed with them for a while before I moved to this next one. So all I was saying is that a lot of things were, just determination, saying that I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna get this done, and got it done. I was with an Indian brokerage. It was all Indian community. There was not one black. I was the only female, only black, that was there. So every time they are dressing and they are doing their things and they are speaking, even in meetings, they're always speaking their language. And I'm like, yeah, I don't fit here. That's one of the reasons why I left. But that also helped me to understand that I had to break some of the barriers for black immigrants, for women, for to be successful, because I didn't want to be the only one. Because that time I used to say it's lonely at the top, but it's not lonely at the top if you bring all your girlfriends and everybody. Like, as much people as are gonna come in, I'm gonna leave the door open for you, and that is what I've been doing. So yeah, that's the long and short of the story of my journey into real estate.
It's interesting to hear the fact that where you go to that brokerage, it was a lot of Indian people, and you were the only black woman. And I was going to ask you actually, because when I came to Canada, it was literally mostly Indians and Sri Lankans that were.
When did you come to Canada?
It was 2015.
Oh, okay.
So it was a lot of Sri Lankans. I wouldn't see a lot of Nigerian or black. It was a lot, like everywhere you go, you see them on billboards, you see them on this and that. You see some white people, but I feel like the Indians saturated the market at some point. Sri Lanka, you see the very long name. That's how I know they're Sri Lankan, because sometimes I can't physically differentiate between who is Indian, who is Sri Lankan. But from the very long, that, oh, this is Sri Lanka. And a lot of people believe that, oh, these people, if you need help as an immigrant, don't go to a white person, go to Sri Lankans. They will help you. So that was the mindset. And I kept wondering, is it that Nigerians are not seeing this market, right? Is it that Nigerians are not seeing this? Is it that they don't want to make money, or is it that they think it is unachievable? But then I've noticed in the past 3 years too, there's been a lot of Nigerians, even female black people, now going into real estate. I'm a lawyer as well, and I practice in real estate. And I would say 90% of the realtors I actually work with are also Nigerians as well. And I'm happy that, yes, I'm seeing them break into that. So to hear that you're one of those people that said, you know what, this has to change, I have to break into this. It's awesome, because now you are pretty much a trailblazer, opening the door for other people to come. And now you can see more representation of our community. And I wonder how that makes you feel as well as an individual.
First of all, I was thinking about that problem. I think the major thing for us was, at that time, like, there's not a lot of Nigerian immigrants. Like, representation was really, really low because there's not enough sample size too, right? So we have to go back to that and say, okay, a lot of these Indians, they are like second, third generations. So they have been able to figure out the system because they've been there longer. So they understand some of those things that we ourselves might not understand. But now seeing a lot of people say, oh, like I still put a post, last week, and people were still saying, I want to become a realtor. Because of you, I've become a realtor. Like that definitely gladdens my heart, because we can't really break poverty and talk about generational wealth if we're not going to talk about real estate. Well, we can't talk about real estate if you don't have a sister, a brother that looks like you, that you can say, hey, I want to be like that. Because when you have a picture in front of you, you can say, I want to dream to be like that, because you have a clear picture. But when I don't have that picture, I don't see someone like me. Sometimes it's difficult to grasp that, right? So that really makes me happy, to be honest, because I know, again, the more the merrier, right? The more of us here, the better it is for the whole community.
Okay. So now that we've talked about how your background, how you became a realtor, and your purpose for actually becoming a realtor, and how you've been able to thrive. Now, let's talk about how you've been helping people. Families come to the country and they're thinking, it looks so impossible to be able to purchase in this country, especially when it comes to Toronto area, the GTA. How have you been able to make those people's dream come true? Because I saw from what you've done, you've been able to assist over 100 families, 2,000 people to invest and all of that. How have you been able to manage that? And how have you been able to even make people believe in that dream?
So again, I said representation matters. When people say, and there's this thing among blacks or among Nigerian community where we are trying to be humble. I still struggle with that a lot. Where you're trying to say, okay, this is what I've done. Like, guys, come on, this is possible. And people actually accepting the fact that, okay, you're not proud and stuff like that. Because people take this information the wrong way. I remember talking to some community. I was like a guest speaker, and I was talking to them about. I think that was the first time I actually mentioned the number of properties that I have as a young female woman with 4 kids, and I'm still able to manage to do this. And people are like, it's not possible. That's not possible. Like they just deny. So I think one of the things that I've done is trying to represent more and more and showing people that, hey guys, this is what is possible. If A, B, C are done it, then you can see do it because you can see yourself in those people. I also think that the other thing is continuous education. So you see me on Instagram and all of that. I am constantly educating people as to now that you guys know that real estate is a thing. This is one of the pillars to making money, if not one of the most easiest and fundamental way of making money. Now I want you to do it the right way. I want you to decide on okay, plan A, plan B, like some of those terms that I'm throwing around and teaching people how to do it. I think it's more education and exposure. And this is a continuous process, right? It's a continuous process because once our generation understands real estate, understand the fundamentals, like people didn't even understand mortgage. Like for me, when I bought my first home, when they're telling my aunt, and the guy would be like looking at you like, "Are you so stupid? You don't know what mortgage is?" Like understanding, like these things are foreign terms if you don't know it. So those continuous education from elementary, from foundations, all the way to advanced level and beyond is what we continue to educate our audience or continue to put the information out there. And all my mentees as well, I am telling them, guys, you need to educate people because some things might sound, very second nature to you, but somebody doesn't know anything about credits just doesn't know how to manage credits, right? So it's continuous education and showing representation that if Mr. A is doing this, then he doesn't have to X, then you can see yourself doing it too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for those of you just joining us, again, I'm here with the wonderful Deborah Ojo, the CEO of Deborah Homes. For those of you that are OG, you know what to do already. Please go into the comment section. Let us know where you're watching us from, and what city is it in the country? Is it outside of Canada? Let us know and leave a comment there. We'll shout you out after this show. So now in the GTA or even in Canada generally, it keeps looking more and more unachievable to be able to purchase, let alone invest in real estate. That might be the mindset of a lot of people. Wow, for you to be able to get a mortgage, for you to be able to afford a house right now in Toronto for 850 or $1 million, then you must be making a whole lot of money. So what do you say to that myth? Is it that it is truly impossible, or is it that you can actually find other ways to be able to be a homeowner or a real estate investor, not necessarily owning a home?
Okay, I have two answers to that. Number one, mindset is key. One of the major things that I've been trying to do is break people's mindsets and to a positive mindset, whereas you can do anything you set your mind to, right? You can do anything that you want to do as long as you believe you can do it. Once you have a value proposition, you now start to create steps on how to get there, and you will attract your tribe. Like when I started real estate, all of my clients are new. They are people that I didn't know before. They are not my friends. I wasn't even advertising to my friends. Well, I called them the first day and I said, "Hey guys, I'm not into real estate," but none of them came back. But in school, they had also taught us that none of them is going to come back. So, but all of my clients are new. All this new audience that I have. They are people that doesn't know anything about me from before. So what I'm saying is once you decide that this is what I'm going to do, you may not have the audience, you may not have the capital, but you have the mindset and you believe in yourself that you can absolutely do it. Tell yourself whatever, lines that you need to tell yourself that you can do it, and then it's done, right? The
Absolutely.
other thing that I have to say to that is you don't have to start low, right? Sorry, you don't have to start so high, buying $1 million property, buy where you can afford, rent where you live, and buy where you can afford. That's always my slogan. So if right now I'm waking up today is my morning, I am going to go buy in places where I can afford. If London, Ontario is where I want to afford. If not, Barry somewhere is where I can afford. Buy where you can afford and rent where you live right now. Your first property doesn't have to be your residential property. I say this to a lot of people as immigrants. I know immigrants, a lot of them are coming in with low cash. So, which means that you may not be able to compete with the Jones and the Indians and all of that because they've been here for generations. They have heritage that will pass down to them. So for you that you're starting, you don't need to compare yourself. Go to where you can afford, find a good location for yourself, buy there, and as time goes on, it's gonna continue to appreciate. You continue to double your portfolio every now and then, and every few years, and you grow from there, right? The third answer, I know I told you I'm gonna give you two answers. The third answer, this is gonna be the last, is that also in terms of not limiting yourself, go find jobs or businesses that are going to pay you a lot, right? I used to tell people my dad had already prepped me that don't work for anybody because he had problems. He was forced to retire at the time that he didn't. At the time he needed his employer the most, so he had to retire. And he said, Deborah, don't. I'm the first one. Don't ever trust employers, right? So I've always thought that I was going to be a business lady or businesswoman before I even thought real estate was going to be the way to go. So, but then when I did that, when I became a this real estate mogul and all of that, I lost my line of thought anyways. But I was talking about mindset and the fact that don't go back to I cannot do it. Try to find yourself a career. So I was gonna say find businesses because there were many businesses that came that I thought about. Maybe I could be share dollar, a dollar, exchange currency, and all of that. I'm like, okay, $2 per thing. How is that gonna carry my family? So when you know the cost of living of where you are, it also shows you that when you are negotiating your contract. I also had a background in human resources. When you are negotiating your contracts and they are giving you $50,000, you better sharpen your brain and negotiate for more. If you need to go get more certificates to position you to be able to build your career, build your real estate wealth for yourself and your generation, that's what you gotta do. Because again, you may not be able to afford houses in the GTA right now, but in the next 5 years, I'm hoping you are able to come to the GTA and have a plan for yourself that can actually then afford real estate because you position yourself to be able to do so. So yeah, that's my thought.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that response. And I like what you said about you can buy where you can afford and rent where you live. So for a lot of people, at least pre-pandemic, everybody had to physically be at work. So that kind of limited their mindset as to where to purchase a house because everybody wanted to purchase and live in it, right? Nobody was thinking about I could be a landlord somewhere else because when they are purchasing or when they're, at least I know for myself and a lot of us then, it was about if I go buy a house in London, am I going to drive to and from London to get to work every day? But then with the reality of when the pandemic came and people could work remotely, it made people to be able to broaden their horizon as to, oh my God, so I can actually purchase a house even in Calgary while working in Toronto. But then that then made the market even more saturated and more expensive because now people are going to all those places that used to be, let's say, 300,000 to 50 in the past. So it makes sense when you said you can actually continue to rent and still be a landlord and still own your property, which God willing in another 5 years, when you're selling, there's enough equity to transfer from there to then buy your dream house. So that's really mind blowing to know that is possible and for people to actually hear it from someone like you that does this for a living. And now I think there's a comment in there that was talking about from Modupe in Nigeria. and she's like, "Hi guys, I'm a retired person, and I was telling a family friend that if I had known much about property investment, I would have done a lot about this." So can you just address that a little bit if you can? I'll leave it on the screen for now.
I mean, yes, and I appreciate the fact that you're learning that now because lessons learned help us to be better for future. But again, when you wake up is your morning, so which means from today you can start making plans to own more properties. You can also start teaching your generations, your children, to make sure they can start early. You can help them to start early. I was telling somebody the other day, like I did a video on my reel, and I was saying every parent should consider helping their children to buy their first property. I mean, millennials right now, they can afford homes in the GTA or even 2-3 hours away from the GTA. And but the Canadians are helping their children to buy it. The immigrants, on the other hand, they can't do that, right? But we can start to plan and say, hey, I have 4 kids. Even if I cannot plan to have property for each and every one of them because I want to gyrate, chop life, do whatever I want to do, all of that, I can decide that I want them to have at least one property that they're gonna share between them. Average is better than none, right? Nanato na bad. That's my slogan. That is probably as much broken as you hear me speak. But guys, nanato na bad. Start now, start today, make plans, talk to a consultant, talk to a real estate agent that knows what they're doing, share your plan, and they can help you shorten your journey so that all the years that you felt you've lost, you can get everything right back right now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I have another comment here, which I'm going to put on the screen. And it's talking about shares at the bank. Like, would you say, from your own point of view, would you say it makes more sense to go and just be buying shares in companies, or real estate is the real deal? Because there's a question here which I would like you to also address, and like a comment actually said, I realized that I wasted a lot of funds buying shares then. Younger folks precious opportunity. So would you say real estate is the it right now than shares, or you can have both?
Let me start with a story. I also bought shares. When I got here, my dad was a banker. He was working with Union Bank. So all he did was he bought shares and he sold those shares to be able to build his house where we were living. So when I started making money, he encouraged me to buy shares. Because my sister, I bought the shares. The shares are still in Nigeria somewhere, telling me to sign all these stupid signatures. Like they are trying to verify, is it me, is it me? I'm like, Biko, I have grown from that passport that I showed to you 20 years ago. This is me. Can you release my money? And some of it has also lost value, but this was also shares in Nigeria. But what I'm saying is shares do appreciate. So for my kids, yes, I'm encouraging them, buy shares right now, invest your money into something, TFSA, private lending, all of these things are going to help you grow your small capital so that by the time you have enough to be able to buy real estate, you then use it to buy real estate, accumulate it in those shares. Don't buy volatile shares, right? Because you know that that's not your long-term goals. But invest it in something, that thing is going to help you to grow your capital that you can invest into real estate, and then you turn that real estate into a big portfolio, as many properties as you want. You don't have to be as crazy as me. Like I live and build real estate stuff. I am very biased when you ask me this question, by the way, because like I have seen people lose so much money to shares. I have seen people lose money to Bitcoin. My husband was part of them. I'm like, don't even talk to me about it. I don't want to hear it. I just know that real estate has been tried and tested with me for over 10 years. It's literally make me a millionaire. And I will shout this on the highest pulpit that this is what it has done for me. It has changed my life, and it can change your life too. Shares, Bitcoin, and all of that. I've heard so much negative stories. So I am going to say no. But again, this is my own opinion, right?
Mm-hmm. True. And now you mentioned something about private lending, and it's interesting because a friend of mine, we were talking about it this Friday, and she wanted to know, how does private lending work? Like, how much do I have to have? How much percentage can I charge on that money? And can I even use, do I have to use my own money for private lending? Or if I have a line of credit, can I use that line of credit, to, like, let's say line of credit is 8% that I have to pay them. And if I give it to someone in private lending, can I charge 20% and then make 12%? Like, do you have any idea how private lending works and how much you need to have to be able
Yeah.
to?
Kevin's asking a lot of intelligent questions. So private lending is something that I've always done as part of my side also. So in real estate, I do have portfolio with different things within the real estate space, and private lending happens to be one of them. I would encourage people that are starting new to go with a professional, whether a real estate agent or a mortgage agent that can help them to minimize all their risk, right? Watch out for the red flags, and once you identify it, then you can start doing it. But even that, doing it on your own, it could be risky, because for me, I live and breathe real estate, so I could understand comparables. I can understand when people are BSing me on their property value. So let me explain how private lending works in real estate. Private lending is money that is borrowed against a property and is collateralized against a real asset. So right now, we're doing about 25% loan to value in most cases, which means the person that is borrowing the loan has to have a minimum down or equity of 25% on their property, and I can borrow them up to that 75%. So, for example, you are buying a property, you have a property worth $500,000. We know the value of those properties by checking, doing appraisals, right? Appraisal, an official professional appraisal guy is going to appraise the house and say this is what the house is worth. Once we take that value, now I take your mortgage balance. If your mortgage balance is $400,000, that means that is 80% of your property. According to the formula I just gave you, I can't give you a dime, right? But let's say you have a property of $500,000, your mortgage balance is $200,000, right? That means there is about 60% equity in the home. So which means I can borrow you between that 60% up to 75% of the loan as, private lending. And hopefully when people are borrowing this money, I want to know what they're doing with it. Are you going to Nigeria to go and party with my money? Probably, if you're not, this is talking to their character. I probably don't want to borrow you, for that reasons. But if you're putting it in other investments that is going to generate income, so sometimes they might ask you for what is your business plan to make sure you can pay this money back. I want to see what you're using with doing with the money. So this is how private lending works. And usually before COVID and all of that, we charge about 12%. So a standard private lender, depending on the amount, usually if it's a smaller amount like 200K and less, they're charging you they're charging you 12% per annum. If it's more than that, if it's a huge amount of money, 300,000, 400, 600, $1 million, the less the interest rates, but usually it could go from 10% and lower to 6% as of those times. Right now, we are seeing private lenders charge about 11% for bigger loans and about 14-15% for smaller loans, right? So now, if you have a line of credit, one of the things that some clients do is if they have a line of credit, they have an equity line of credit on their house. They have $300,000, $400,000, and the bank is charging them 8%. Yes, for sure, you can. That is called other people's money. This is how you invest in real estate without your own money in the bank. People ask me this all the time. It's not a rocket science, guys. Take your line of credit, other people's money, beat the bank at their games. They've been using your money forever anyways. So now you are going to be smarter. You're going to take that money, invest it into private lending, invest it into flips and all of that, make your money, pay it back, and you still keep the profits for yourself, right? So those are some of the different ways by which you can invest in real estate. And people say, how do you multiply your portfolio so fast and all of that? It's using the power of other people's money.
That's awesome, and I like that term, other people's money. And because my own point of view then, when I was discussing with this friend, is this is not a line of credit, not a home line of credit. It is a line of credit that your bank pre-approves you, maybe 20,000 or 30,000, and you have in the bank. I was like, what happens if the person runs away with your money? Then now you don't only owe that 30,000, you also owe the 8%. So what do you think about that? Like, can you also use the regular line of credit that you have with the bank that has nothing to do with your real estate?
I like that question, but what I would say is yes, you can use it, but you have to make sure that your risk is reduced to minimal. Meaning that the person that you're borrowing it to, like I've seen people borrow me money for, private lenders, and they borrow me because of my reputation, because they know that I have so much equity and all of that. Like Deborah Ojo is Deborah Holmes, so if I default, then I feel Deborah Holmes, and all of this. So I don't want to do that. So the person you're borrowing really, really matters. I want to let people know that when people don't pay back your money in Canada, you cannot send them to jail. This is because they are going to go to the courts, they are going to do payments plan, and they will be paying your money gradually. So you have to understand some of the risks that comes to private lending. So for me personally, even when I am lending my money out to people, I am lending it to reputable people, organizations that have been there for years and years, because I know those people have, they have gone through 2007 recession and all of that, and they bounced back. They went to 2020, they bounce back. So they are most likely going to continue to do well. They have a lot of portfolio. I am looking at the equity to loan value and all of that to make sure that I reduce my risk. In some cases, if it's a large sum of money, I am also including mentors, I am including mortgage brokers and everybody to make sure that I am not overly excited about the money I'm going to make and lose all my capital, right? So those are some of the steps. So if you are starting small, make sure you give your money to someone that you trust from the beginning, so that you are reducing your risk, and someone that is reputable, somebody that has a name, right? You can always pull them, right? So yeah, I think that's important.
That's awesome. I have another question here for you. People are excited about real estate. So, Datari says, do you need to be licensed as a private lender?
Good question. Once you start doing this over and over again, you don't have to be licensed, but there are cases where you have to be licensed when people are coming together as a corporation. So they have lenders that are corporations. That's their business model. So those people have to be licensed, and they have to go through some, security check and all of that. So in that case, once you are big enough, yes, you can be licensed. But for this small aspect and all of that, as far as I know, you don't have to be licensed. I know people that has $1 million, they are, making this, but doing this business, and they're not licensed. But I guess once it gets to a particular, amount of money and all of that, and frequency as well, the government starts to say, like even when you go to the bank, they're like, so what do you want to use the money for? Who are you giving the money to? I'm like, none of your own business. They're like, no, but we have to write something down. Okay,
Yes.
well, I'm giving it to my sister that is gonna buy a house and stuff like that. They want to know, because also you're competing with them, right? So you have to also have to understand some of those things, because I've seen people, want to do this, and somebody spooked them, and they're like, all of this. Do your due diligence, and then once you decide on what to do, know that there's also red tapes, right? One of the things that I think can add value to your audience that I haven't spoken about is RSP, TFSA, all of that too. You can lend people money from your RSP, RESP. You can lend money from that and lend it to private lenders and make more money. Because my daughter is 13 years old, and I was diligently putting money in her account, as a good mother. This money is coming in, I don't want to spend it on vacation or makeup and all of that. I was putting it on in our education fund, and after COVID was when I had the time to actually look at the account, how much growth is on the money. A lot of us, we don't read papers, right? And sometimes I could be guilty of that. My husband is good in company details, so I pass all those information to him. But sometimes you're so busy and you're not looking at what is the growth of my money 10 years, from 10 years of investing. And I discovered that the growth was less than 2%. And they were going to charge me all the agent fees and all of the administrative costs and all of that. By the time I look at my money, there's barely any growth. So I'm like, no, I want my money back. I want to put it to, because I know ways of generating money. So when you hear me saying I put money to private lenders, I also lend money out. There are these funds that I couldn't have touched anyways, but I am using it, multiplying it, and growing it for my children and for my retirement. So they fought me tooth and nail because they don't want me to take the money out of their accounts, right? And it makes sense because this is their business model. I think it took me about 6 months. Like they kept calling me and say, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm sure. We're gonna charge this. Yes, take it," because I have calculated that my daughter still has, 8 more years or 16 more years, some of them and all of that. And I can take this money, grow it, and eventually it makes sense. Because for me, I'm very good at numbers. They always say genius zone. My own genius zone is I can look at number, I can look at this and say, like, you are selling me BS. I don't want it. So I looked at this, I crunched the numbers, put step by step. If I don't withdraw this, how much will it be? And they don't have to charge me some fees. If I withdraw it now and I grow it at this percentage, at the being very, very conservative with my percentage, all of that too. How much will it, the growth have been? And I made my decision, right? And this is what I do for consulting. When people come to me and say, which property should I sell? Where should I put my money? All of this, I'm able to look at it and say, hey, yeah, this seems to be the best decision, and I'll be able to explain it to you. So yes, you can borrow your RESP, you can borrow your TFSA, you can borrow your RRSP, you can use that for private lending, you can do a lot of things with it. So yeah.
That's awesome, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I was going to ask you. I remember that a realtor was talking to me about how you can actually borrow money from your RRSP to purchase your home. That is called an RRSP loan. I don't know if you work with that as well. Like, can you explain a little bit about how that works? If you want to purchase your first home, and you can take from your retirement savings, and then I think it says something about you have 11 years to then put it back without penalty.
Okay, so let's go back first. Let's rewind a second. For immigrants that are watching this show, when you start your career, make sure you negotiate very well to up your game, because cost of living is high. We've said that before. Number two is, when you are negotiating, one of the things you're negotiating for is your RRSP. Are you guys able to cap my RRSP? When I put money for my retirement savings, some of the employers will match your money dollar for dollar, right? So now, once you have your RRSP savings, you've been working for 5 years, you have 50K there, you have $40,000 there. You can take this money, borrow it, because the government's meant for this money to be your retirement fund when you retire at age 65. But they also give first-time home buyers, only first-time home buyers though, they give them the opportunity to be able to loan from their retirement savings, right? You loan from it and use it to buy your first property. When you're loaning from it, you're paying yourself zero interest, right? But you have 10 years to pay this money back. So yes, within the 10 years, you have to commit to a certain amount that you're going to be putting back to your RSP to make up for the total you took, which in most cases in Canada, in the GTA, I mean, we sell our properties after 2-3 years. I can just pay the lump sum back, right? But yeah, you can borrow your RRSP, your money from yourself, right? And put it back in future to be able to get you into buying a property faster. Fikemi is just
That's
smiling.
awesome. That's awesome. And yes, Manua says this is a very valuable and beneficial chat. Appreciated. Thank you very much for joining. For those of you that are just joining and you're wondering who am I chatting with here today, it's Deborah Ojo, and I keep calling her the CEO of DeboraHomes. And yes, she's teaching us how to, build generational wealth by using real estate. And she's been dishing out nuggets, and in fact, it's more than nuggets, chunks and chunks of wisdom here. So if you are an immigrant and you're looking at how do I actually break into this so-called real estate market that looks impossible, guess what? You're at the right show today. Everything she's saying has been spot on. And we've learned a lot about how you can use other people's money, which is my new favorite term, to be able to generate. So you don't have to, if you have a line of credit, either it being on your home that you already purchased or you've been pre-approved, you can actually use that to gain wealth in real estate. Now, the trick there is, if you don't know about this, do not do it on your own, because you can come back with 0 penny, just like you can come back losing all your money. So you can connect with people like Deborah Ojo or any other person that is knowledgeable in this aspect, so they can actually put you through how you can loan those money out and then get good fresh cash from that, return on investment on that, using again other people's money. That's awesome. So we are kind of getting the sense of how we can actually go into this real estate, seeing that it is possible. So now, what are your advice to the audience, either you being a new immigrant or you being in this country for quite a while now and you've been purchasing real estate? Because recently we talked about mortgage, how difficult it can be to get a mortgage. And again, in the same breath, you're talking about being able to own so many other properties, like 5 properties. How are you going to be able to manage all these mortgages or even get approved for that mortgage if you are wanting to buy more than one property?
Awesome question. So I sometimes I put it on my story and I'm saying, guys, this is actually a lot of work. Owning real estate as a landlord, even if you are property managers, you still have to manage your property managers, and that could be a part-time work. And this is why sometimes I do, I give my kids incentive to do all my bookkeeping. Sometimes I give it to my husband and all of that. But having managing your properties, I'm just saying, can be overwhelming. And but the good thing is, in a lot of cases, a lot of us didn't just start one day with 10 properties at a time. Thank God I didn't do that. I would have been overwhelmed. I probably would have run away and all of that. But in terms of mortgages and how you qualify, the more income that you have, the more your qualification. And when you have cash flowing properties, those cash flowing properties add to your income, so increases your income so that you can continue to qualify. So one of my own slogans or cheat code is, I don't want to buy a non cash flowing properties, because when I do that, it debars me from continuing to buy. So no matter how good the property is, and I always tell my clients, don't be shiny object syndrome, right? Shiny object syndrome to me means that you guys are looking at the chandeliers, you can look, oh my goodness, this is painted, this is nice and all of that. So I'm like, look at the big picture. I'm screaming in their ears, remember the big picture. My goal here is to help you to buy 5 properties, and you're not going to be able to buy those 5 properties if you focus on the shiny object syndrome. Because when you buy properties that nobody wants, in a good location, you can gradually fix it over time, right? But by that time, you have this property in your name. I buy another property like that, and I can buy it cheaper too, right? So these are strategies. There are different strategies to making sure that you guys are able to buy multiple properties. Give yourself one time a year. I want to buy one property a year. I want to buy, me and my husband, we're going to decide. The other thing is, I tell people with partners, whether your partner is your mom or your partner is your dad, your partner is your husband, whatever it does, involve them, make them to watch these videos. You know why? If you don't make them watch these videos and you're telling them, they're like, my husband, sure, you don't really say so much, okay, just go into it. Until I started dragging him to all the seminars, I'm like, this is why I love real estate. And it's like, oh yeah. And when we are in seminars now, it's like, oh wow, we could do this, we could do that. So I'm like, yeah, I was telling you, but we can make faster decisions because I drag him along, right? So guys, drag your significant partners along. You guys are able to make decisions faster. Understand the strategies, understand that real estate is like everything else. I mean, I just love the internet because people like me, I like shortcuts to the answer. I just want to sit down, tell me all the steps that I need to take to be a lawyer, and you tell me I don't want to go back and be reading books and books and books. I'm not a book reader like that. I'm not a bookworm. I want you to tell me the shortcuts. So which means I have been able to grow, very, very fast because I had mentors, because I had people in my corner. And I am not afraid to ask questions. And if you are talking too fast, I'm going to tell you, please slow down. Give me the 2 first steps that I need to take. And I'll come back and take the next 2 once I've achieved the first one, right? So get mentors, get coaches, invest in yourself. Know that as much as you can make money in real estate, I mean, you must have been hearing stories. A lot of people have lost money, right? In this past 2 years, people have lost a lot. I've seen people that marriages are broken, right? I've seen people that they are in debt, their credit is ruined, like some people are even depressed. So you have to make sure that the $5,000, $10,000, $30,000 sometimes, I've invested this much into learning real estate, and I continue to invest. You see me, guys, some of my followers, you see me, going to seminars, webinars, and all of those things. I am continuously investing in myself. What is out there? What are people doing? Is it Airbnb? What is the trend? How are people able to get their tenants out? All of these gimmicks, I am continuously learning, plugging myself into the community so that I can continue to hold myself accountable and continue to, check off my goals, right? Check off my, the things that I've told myself that I'm going to do.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
And
And
there was one day I was going through your page and I saw one lady. I can't remember what her name was, but she was saying something about. Can you imagine that last year she was living in, I think, a two-bedroom with a family, and now she's about after contacting you, she now has a home. She was taking a photo of her of the home, and she also has maybe two other investments. And I'm like, really? Within a year, like, how were you able to like turn that? When we see these things, it looks like really, or are you just telling us like some
I
mumbo
know
jumbo?
you're
But
one
the
of
truth
those
is,
people. You're one of those
no,
people.
no, actually not. Because you know the funny part, because I am into real estate. I'm a real estate lawyer, so I've seen it all. I've seen a lot of things throughout my practice. But the truth is, when you're telling it to other people, it feels like you're just saying something. So when I see those kind of things, that those are the kind of things that made me say, you know what, I have to bring you so that people can actually see that I'm not just saying a bunch of nonsense, because now they can hear it not from just a lawyer's perspective, but also from a real estate mogul that has been doing this and has been helping families. So that's why I said, you know what, I have to reach out to Deborah. She has to come and tell us all about this so that they know that I'm not just talking nonsense. And it is very amazing knowing that a lot of people are beginning to focus on growing that generational wealth. For a lot of us, we're first generation Canadians, right? So we don't have some money tree at our backyard. We don't have a grandma that has left us a 5 million acre of whatever. So we have to do this for our generation coming. We have to do this for our children. Not that my child is going to school at 18 years, they have to go get a loan. We have to think about how to protect this generation coming, because the
Yeah.
truth is, it keeps getting worse and worse when it comes to cost of living. Even all around Canada, forget about GTA now. All around
Yeah.
Canada, the cost of living keeps getting higher. So we want to position ourselves in a place where we're covered. Maybe probably grow a money tree by way of real estate as well. So this has been an awesome and eye-opening session. One last thing that I wanted to mention, which I was discussing actually with my sister last week, is about buying when you're trying to get into real estate and you don't have a lot of money. Also, the possibility of buying land, not necessarily developing the land, but waiting for it to appreciate and then selling it. This is also an aspect where people, let's say in Calgary or other places, can also look into. I don't know if that has been any aspect that you've worked with before, buying vacant land. Is that a thing that you would advise?
You know, one of my regrets is that I never bought a land when it was much affordable in the GTA. That's one of my biggest regrets. Because I remember seeing lands in like Windsor, Niagara for like 100K, 70,000. Even in Windsor at that time, there was actually properties, duplexes that were 70,000. And at that time, I was still very new to real estate. So I was like, I was calling the guy, I'm like, this cannot be true. Because I just drive down, but from Brampton to Windsor at the time, it was like 4 hours or 5 hours. I'm like,
Three and a
you
half.
might
Yeah.
be getting nannies and all of that. I didn't do it, but I'm saying as of that time, land was very, very affordable. So if you are living in an area where you can buy land, right, and where you do all the analysis, go into the city, look at their plans, their 10-year plan. What are they trying to do? Are they bringing schools to the area? Are there immigrants that are coming to the area? When you see all of these positive things, then you can start to, put your money into land banking, buy some land that you can afford, buy it with few friends that you trust. Make sure you guys have a contract. I do JVs, but I always encourage you guys to have a contract. And then you can buy those lands, bank it somewhere, and I promise you in 10 years, in 20 years, it's not going to be worth the same thing. The other thing that I want to mention is, for people that are back home, Nigerians, blacks, minorities, and all of those things. One of the things that affects us the most, as I sit down and think about, why we are just like this, why we are just at the lowest, income level possible. And I was thinking, a lot of us would say, my parents didn't, they didn't, there was no tree at the back of my backyard that is growing money, right? That my grandmother has planted. But the truth is, for a lot of us, it actually is. But the problem in it is, again, generational wealth. We lack the information to be able to pass this wealth down from generation to generation. So even if you're in Nigeria, before you think of, expanding more, first of all, teach your kids. And I want you to go and ask your parents that are still living, what do they have? What is their plan to pass it? Educate them. Start thinking, if your parents, because my parents will expose me to it, my dad will say his dad will expose him to it and say, this is the land, let him be. But, meaning this is the land we have here. But he never paid attention. We lose all of that, to other people, other family members, and then we come here screaming that we don't have anything. If we carry the same mentality and bring it here, we don't plan to actually safely transfer the wealth to our next generation in the most tax efficient way. We're gonna be back here 30, 40 years from now. So guys, let's do it differently. This is a holistic approach that I'm taking to wealth generation, and I hope that you guys have learned one or two things today.
That's awesome. That's a perfect way to end this. That's a perfect. There's no other way. So this has been awesome. I can't believe it's been an hour. It's amazing.
She only told me 45 minutes, guys.
I know. I just had to quickly put all of those questions in there as they were coming in, and I really appreciate it. I'm just going to quickly give a quick shout out to those that left a comment. Thank you so much, Datari Anene from Brampton. Thank you so much, Okwayemi Fashora from Calgary. Thank you, Modupe Akere from Nigeria. Thank you so much, Manua Akeroye as well from Nigeria. That's my dad, by the way. So that's my dad, and that's my mom. So they're watching, they're always supporting me. I appreciate you, Deborah, and I believe that a lot of people that have been able to watch this, please reshare to all your friends and family so they can learn one or two things. And of course, if you have questions or if you need to start the journey, I'm sure Deborah doesn't have too many clients that she cannot accommodate you, I believe. So if you can tell us, Deborah, how can they reach you, either on social media or if it's an email, can you please let us know so they can take that down?
Okay, the best way to reach me is on my Instagram. So you can go to DeboraHomes, as you see it on the screen, DeboraHomes. Search it on Instagram, I will pop up. And you can also, so you can send us a DM, you can comment, you can do all of that. So also show us love, let us know what else you guys are struggling with so that we can help. The other thing is you can reach me on my email, admin@DeboraHomes.com. So the word admin as DeboraHomes, as you see it on the screen.com. You can reach me in those two places. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deborah. I really appreciate you joining us today. I'm going to give you back the rest of your Saturday, and I apologize for stealing the additional 20 minutes. But I know
no worries at all. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good Saturday.